let's move over to the talk for today. And I've thrown a few slides in here, but they're really not informational slides. They're really just to kind of keep us all together in a general topic area. I'm going to talk about four kind of key areas as we set this up. But what I really want to do is I want to move us through today's session and get into a group exercise pretty quickly where we can work together on building our next step career plan and holding each other accountable. So my goal here today is not only for you to define some steps, but for you to share those steps with some colleagues here at Product Coffee, and then keep in touch with each other and encourage each other along the way as we move forward in our career development. So we're going to talk about the product management career ladder, and we're going to talk about leveling up and what it takes to move between those levels. And once again, this is going to be largely based on my observation. I welcome and invite anyone with other experiences and perspectives to share and expand on this. Let's put this together in a true town hall sense. We're going to touch really lightly on what happens after product management. I've seen a lot of questions come on every week. When you register for Product Coffee, you see I ask a couple of questions. I ask what's on your mind? What questions do you have? And a lot of this is coming from those questions that people are asking. And I also ask about books that you would recommend to other product managers. And we're going to be talking about that soon. I've got a list of those, and I'll share that with you very soon as well. And finally, we're going to move over to our group exercise. So real quickly, let's start with the career ladder. And when it comes to the career ladder, one of the things that somebody mentioned earlier today, I think it was Paul mentioned earlier today, is there are so many different titles that people are using to refer to different product management levels, positions, roles. And you're right, there are. Some of it is industry dependent. Some of it is people are just trying to dial in a clear description. Sometimes there's a little internal politics to it. My PowerPoint or my iTunes still keeps launching, so I quit PowerPoint accidentally. Give me one moment here. Oh, we'll cut this out of the replay.
We're not getting to hear hear the Elvis music.
No, I could share it. I may have no choice. It's going to make me crazy. I think I need a reboot. Anyway, we'll get back to that. Come on. All right. So, all right, here's a good break for you. All right. So from a career ladder perspective, I've kind of identified and observed 7 general role levels, and they'll have different titles, but what's important about them is not so much the title. Don't get hung up on the title. You want a mental model to understand the career progression within the organization that you're joining. The first one, and I made some notes over in the resources page to start things out, but the first one is just an entry-level product management role. A lot of places call it an associate product manager. Some people call it a junior product manager. Some people call it a product analyst or a product owner, especially in a software environment. You'll hear product owner a lot. There's a little PO product owner, and there's a big PO product owner. And the difference is in the level of ownership. Scrum has a role called the product owner. Scrum is an agile methodology, an approach to agile, and there's a specific role called the product owner, and that person has a function on a Scrum team that has been inflated to encompass a lot of team level product management roles, even when Scrum isn't the approach that's being used. It's generally a product management role that is focused very tightly on team management, on team backlog, on creating a flow of work for the team. This was, I think Steve was talking about a moment ago, organizations that are just trying to keep the team fed and keep thing and that has the result of creating a lot of thrashing. But the product owner's job is to understand and organize the backlog or the requirements that are coming to a development or a build team and represent the customer on that team. And a lot of these early stage career level product management roles are really about developing the core product management skills, getting some successes under your belt, and helping to facilitate effective software or product development. The second level, the second kind of tier there is the product manager role. And this is somebody typically that has a few years under their belt, maybe, a couple of years or more of experience under their belt, and has some domain expertise as well. So you've built a little bit of product management credibility. You know the skills in whatever industry you're in. If you're in a packaged goods industry, you understand the flow of the work that needs to be done, and or you have some industry specific expertise. These are the easiest ones to come into when you have one expertise and not the other, because they're still fairly early career. But if you've shown some ability to get results at a tactical level, this is where it's really easy. One of the first places that it's easy to move around from industry to industry, in my experience. The next level is more about this senior product management role. And the difference here between a product manager and a senior product manager really is primarily around experience. You've been at product management a while, you've got some successes under your belt, you can really demonstrate expertise as a product manager in the product management skill sets. And we'll talk about those a little bit in just a moment as well. Sometimes a senior product manager has management responsibility, actually may supervise, may have a couple of direct reports. Not always. It's not a guaranteed, and it depends on the organization. It can go either way. It's not a prerequisite for sure. And these will be called lots of different things. Sometimes they're just called a product manager. So I've noticed a lot of organizations are around the Atlanta area, especially in financial services, have a lot of roles that they position as a director of product management or a product management director that are actually really senior product management roles. They're individual contributors with possibly one or two direct reports that are very junior level direct reports, but they're primarily focused on a specific single product or product area. And then there's the lead product manager, or in some cases I've seen it called the principal product manager. And this is someone who is responsible for a portfolio of products or a large strategic product. It's an evolution of that senior product manager. Sometimes you'll see this lead product manager referred to as a senior product manager as well. Sometimes they're called out as a specific role, but there's a distinction in that, once again, a lead product manager or a principal product manager doesn't have many, if any, direct reports, but they are responsible for a matrixed organization. They've got some indirect reports as a general rule, and are steering and guiding a very significant portion of the product portfolio, a very significant product within the portfolio that has large value within the organization. The next level up the ladder is the director level, and this truly is a management role as a general rule, with the exception of the places around Atlanta where I've seen individual contributors called director as a recruiting technique, as kind of part of the recruiting package. helps to build the resume. But typically when I think of a director of product management, I'm thinking of someone who's responsible for a product management organization or team. They're going to have multiple senior product managers reporting to them, possibly a lead product manager, a principal product manager, kind of a super senior person, and generally going to have quite a few very junior level people in their organization as well. They're building a product management practice within an organization, as well as directing and managing a portfolio. Your vice president is the next step up from that. These are people who have demonstrated or are responsible for creating a great deal of strategic value within the company. They're managing entire portfolios of products, large teams of product managers, including possibly multiple one or more directors as well. So they may be at the top of a pyramid, near the top of a pyramid organization. They've got responsibilities for interacting with the board of directors very often and with the C-suite on a regular basis to help define and execute the company strategy and its products. And they often have a lot of influence throughout the rest of the organization as well, as one of the leaders of the company and the organization as a whole. There are also, you might see someone in this type of a role referred to or marketed as a senior director. And then the last product management level that I'm going to talk about on the career ladder is that chief product officer or senior vice president of product, depending on the organization you're in. You could have both, but they're really they're directly interacting with or part of the C-suite. They directly interact with the board of directors on a regular basis. They're instrumental in defining the strategy of the company, identifying the markets that the company is going to serve, identifying the problems that the company is going to go after, and coordinating the entire portfolio of products, the product strategy, and the product management practices of the company to deliver on that strategy. They're going to have multiple organizations. They're typically going to have multiple product organizations in the organization with multiple vice presidents rolling up to them to help help define and execute on that strategy. So I'm going to pause there for just a moment after I've kind of gone through that monologue, ask a couple of folks that I see on the line as well. Have you observed some other roles within this structure that would fit into any of those categories, or some observations around the general high-level responsibilities of any of those roles?
The only other thing I've noticed just from being in the looking at different roles and titles is it's sort of a hybrid role, but the program owner or program manager, I've seen a lot of overlap between some of those role descriptions with product management. It's not necessarily the same, but I see a lot of overlap from managing a portfolio, influencing the organization, a lot of the product skill sets that overlap with that title.
Yeah, that makes sense. I've seen that a few times as well. I was talking to someone recently, as a matter of fact, who was interviewing for a position that sounded an awful lot like a product management leadership role, but it was titled as a program director, which really to me feels more like a project management, a PMA type of a role that's really more about scheduling and managing resources. When I hear that title, that's what I kind of assume. You're owning a bunch of project management work as opposed to product management work. I wonder how common it is becoming to see that close of an overlap in the strategy versus the execution. Has anyone else seen that?
Yeah, Jason, I saw that as well, sort of doing a job search last summer. And what I found for some of those program management roles, and actually some product and product leadership roles that were at companies that weren't software companies, right? We're trying to essentially say, hey, from an internal IT perspective, right, we want our internal systems to be strategic. So I want to hire a product manager. And so I feel like I've seen that happen a little bit, where they're using product management when it's really not, their external product was it America's Best, one of the eyeglass companies. It's up in
Mhm.
Duluth or Swanee, whatever area. And they had a bunch of product management roles, and I skipped past them because I was like, I don't know anything about prescription glasses, right? So that's I can't really help in that. And then it turned out they were all software related, and they were trying to bring that mentality internally. And then
Hey, I'm sorry.
the only other thing I wanted to sort of comment on, my own personal public service announcement, if you will, something that really frustrated me is the term product owner as a job title versus because literally I saw product owner as the bottom rung of the ladder, right? We need a product analyst to come in and help. And a headhunter reached out to me last summer for a product owner role. And I said, why are you talking to me about this? And he was like, oh, this is the chief product officer role. And I was like, you're going to call it product owner, right? Like that's the worst titling. Don't do that. It's a role in Scrum. Stick to something else for titles. So please, if you have influence over that, let's get that out of the job title world.
Good point. Yeah, I have had similar kind of frustration at hearing that, at seeing that misapplication as well. So good call out. Thanks, Jeff.
So to comment on the program manager thing, I recently saw a career ladder from Microsoft, and they seem to be calling their product managers program managers.
Really?
It's very interesting coming from a company like Microsoft, I think.
Yeah, that's true. I actually was trying to get into a rotational program with them, and I was having a discussion with someone, and they said, we don't have product, we have program. And I had to ask why and what was going on and what the reason was. And they're just, it's more of a technical program overhaul, the way they look at it. So that was interesting.
And Jason, I've seen a couple other kind of new age titles, right? Where you start becoming your customer experience manager and those kind of things that are attempting to kind of broaden the UI UX perspective associated with product ownership. I think there's a lot of them out there that are doing that, and there's actually several layers of it, right? So senior product, customer experience manager and those kind of things that are showing up in the job markets today.
Yeah, and I would say even to build on that as well, platform is becoming a hybrid role too. Maybe kind of like who was it that is that Jeff or sorry, I don't remember the name that mentioned was going into program ownership as well, but platform maybe more IT focused sometimes, but similar type deal where it's becoming a hybrid type of title as well. Platform manager,
Okay.
Platform owner. And I think a lot of it's just dependent on how the organization's structured and whoever a lot of times if it's under the CTO, it might have more of a technical title related to it as well, although it's a very similar function to product management and ownership.
Yeah. And that makes me think, one of the things I didn't include in the notes that I shared is that there's kind of a few different approaches that companies take to how product management rolls up. And I think that's key to understanding, to your point, Paul, what the ladder looks like in an organization. Sometimes it rolls up to the CTO or to an engineering organization. Sometimes it rolls up to a marketing organization, and sometimes its own C-level reporting organization. I tend to think when it's its own C-level organization, it creates a healthy tension across the organization, a healthy tension. And that's where I've seen it consistently seem to work the best. Although I've been in organizations where it rolled up to, personally, I've been in organizations where product management rolled up to engineering. And because of the engineering leaders that were in place, it worked exceedingly well in those organizations, even though it may not have been the ideal organizational structure. But that'll also have an impact. I'm talking with a guy that I know who is a CTO who has some product management roles available. And I've mentioned them here on this call before as well. And he's very, very focused on bringing the product management team in to help facilitate the engineering organization and help the engineering organization be successful. I think it's some great opportunities for some people, but to get to strategic product management and product development, I think you need to have a true C-level reporting relationship so that your product management is inherently involved in the strategy of the company. Once again, Jason's opinion. Anything else to add before we move on to leveling up?
I just wonder if some of the blur there is because smaller organizations don't really have the resource budget to have all the distinct roles. And so is it feasible then that the expectation that's developing within the organization is that a single person wears all those hats? We want you to manage the product, but we also need you to manage the project.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think the size of the company, Bob, will make a difference in terms of how that works. I've seen cases where there is an expectation that the product manager is the one who's helping to set a plan and set a project for something, as opposed to a good partnership with engineering in an agile or Scrum organization, right, where the product manager is laying out some goals and then the team, right, is coming back and estimating and saying, hey, here's when we think, right, we can have sort of some milestones, things taken care of. But certainly as you grow and scale, it's more important, I think, to have some different levels, people who show up at work thinking about those specific things every day, as opposed to trying to find time in a given week to spend time on it.
And some of it's just from ignorance. I mean, there's just folks out there who don't know what the role is. And as a result, we need this kind of done, and we also kind of need that done. So like you're saying, they're combining roles, but it's not because they're trying to do it on purpose. It's just they don't know what to call it. And they've seen other jobs that sound similar. So they're calling it, oh, you're an executive VP for product management, right? And we're going to give you 8 developers and a Scrum master. So go create an agile or what's the buzzword now? A digital system. And it's like, okay, that's not really what a product manager normally does, but that is kind of what, so there's roles there. It's just a matter of the confusion and within a company of who does what and why and how.
All right. So I'm going to move on here just so that we can get to those groups here in just a moment. But I do want to take a moment to really talk about transitioning and moving between these various career levels, because that's kind of the crux of what we wanted to do today. And I've been fortunate through Product Camp and through my career. I've been fortunate enough to watch a lot of people transition across career levels, and I've seen a lot of people who have stagnated across career levels. Sometimes stagnation happens just dumb luck being in the wrong place and just not getting in the right rhythm. So there is no one size fits all answer, I think, to securing career progression. But there are a few keys and similarities that I have personally observed to people that have moved forward, and that approaches that I've taken that I think have served me well in my career. And the first of them is really kind of understanding the roles and responsibilities at each of the levels, whatever the framework is, whatever the titles are in the organization that you're in. What is the purpose of that role? What is it that you're expected to learn in that role? And what is it that next level up is intended? What's the value that next level up is intended to create as well? And the way I've seen people operate most successfully is, in general, when they're looking at the organization and what needs to be done, and they're filling the value that a specific role is intended to create, they tend to migrate into that role. So it's a little bit of a chicken and an egg conversation, but I see some of the most successful product people that I have observed have essentially done the role that they would like to be paid for and awarded, and then become the obvious choice to move into that role. So if I'm thinking about the entry-level product manager, that associate product manager, they're typically in a software organization, they are filling that product owner role on a team. That is their primary responsibility, is to facilitate a successful backlog and a successful development team, or successful development effort. During this time, sometimes before this time, this is one of the most valuable times to gain a product management certification of some sort, because it helps to give you a mental model to think about all the things that the product organization is doing. Unfortunately, product certifications can be kind of expensive. So getting your company to pay for it as an extended education opportunity is an ideal opportunity at that point. It gives you a framework to work through more strategic problems than tactical problems. And as product owners, or junior product managers, or associate product managers, or staff product managers, develop these skills and expertise in product management technique, in writing stories, in contributing with their more senior stakeholders to a roadmap, and communicating effectively with their stakeholders, they're building and mastering those entry-level skills in creating successful outcomes. The product manager, then, anything that anybody would add there at that entry level, especially I'm looking at some of the folks that I know who have been hiring managers and managers of other product managers. Don't see anybody jumping in. Jeff, you just came off mute there.
No, I think you're right. I think at the bottom part really is, it's about, right, it's sort of the fundamentals, right? So it's what's a good set of requirements, right? And how do we make sure that the what, right, the what and the why is well understood, to be passed on to a team and come out the backside to then explain, right, make sure that maybe senior product managers and product marketing and other folks understand that what and the why as well, to be able to take it out, right, take it out to market.
Yeah. But
the focus at the, sort of the bottom end of the ladder really is, just learning the basics and really honing in on how do I get good requirements, whatever that, right, looks like for your organization.
Yep. Exactly. Yep. Thank you. The product manager, on the other hand, that next level up, as I said, they've developed some domain expertise. So once again, when you're at that entry level role and you start to develop that industry expertise, that subject matter expertise that makes you an invaluable member of the team, that's a sign that it's time for you to be in perhaps a more senior level, and take on some more senior level responsibilities. This is where you're defining feature success metrics. You're consistently creating successful outcomes. You don't mind being held accountable to more business focused outcomes rather than just delivery focused outcomes. Yes, we delivered our feature, but did it get the result that we wanted it to get? This is kind of one of the distinctions between that entry level, I'm just helping to get capabilities or get products out the door, versus actually aligning them to business outcomes. You're also comfortable proposing solutions to customer problems that you've identified in the marketplace, and you're taking leadership in recommending growth opportunities for within your organization. The senior product manager is doing that, but they're also defining product success. They're saying, okay, this is what success for our product should look like, and pitching that to the stakeholders, creating a line view and understanding how that product contributes to the business, and helping to say, okay, we can have a more successful business if I'm managing a product that does X, Y, and Z. They're owning that roadmap. They're comfortable owning and communicating that roadmap, or major for a product, or major feature groups or capability groups. They're mentoring others and teaching skills to others. They're helping others become stronger product managers. Sometimes they're developing business cases at this stage of the career. They're really kind of leading a business case and an exploration into a new a new area of profitability in the product portfolio. They're proposing strategic solutions. So I've kind of gone through kind of a product manager and a senior product manager really quickly there. Is there anything that anybody would like to add or contribute to those observations? All right. So if anybody wants to jump in, just kind of hit the little hand raise option there, and I will keep an eye out for those as well, and keep this thing flowing otherwise. But I would, once again, really value any other inputs if I'm missing anything, especially. That lead product manager is doing the same things as the senior product manager, but they've taken it a step further, and they're really not just looking at a single discrete product. They're looking at how a single product contributes to a portfolio of products and is an active component of the portfolio. They're taking on a larger, more strategic initiative. The example is going from a feature of an existing product to leading the development of after an approved business case of a whole new product for the portfolio. Perhaps it's going to have strategic implications to the rest of the portfolio. It's going to add value to the rest of the portfolio, but also stand in its own right. They're definitely developing business cases, proposing those strategic solutions, often managing others either indirectly as in a matrix organization, or possibly even directly with a couple of junior level reports to help facilitate the development, the new product development effort that they're a part of. Director level goes, the director level goes to the exact same. It kind of continues that escalation, but is really now, instead of looking at individual products, is looking at a portfolio of products, is looking at a team of product managers. They're owning not only the publication and management of a complex roadmap of multiple products, they're owning the successful delivery of that roadmap to a degree as well. They're owning the P&L. They're responsible for financial or business results in a very strategic kind of a way. And they're representing strategic business interests broadly throughout the market. So they're often speaking at events in a leadership capacity, supporting sales efforts as well, in strategic sales efforts as kind of yet an additional responsibility. They're very visual, focal personality within the public persona of the company.
Hey, Jason, the
Yeah.
other thing I would add here, we haven't sort of touched on it yet, but is prioritization.
Mm-hmm.
Right, that again at the lowest level, right? There's prioritization everywhere in products, but at the lowest level, it's really prioritizing, right, the smaller pieces to get to, right, an MVP or something like that, right? You're in the gory details, so I think you can see that. And I think increasingly as you move up into leadership positions, it really is about communicating and socializing and getting buy-in from the rest of the organization on the reasons for that prioritization, so that your sales team understands why you're doing something, and your support team understands, right, why you're not fixing things that are, right, causing defects, right, all those types of trade-offs. I think becomes really, really important from a skill set perspective, is communicating, explaining the why of the prioritization process, and being able to communicate and sort of socialize that.
Good point. Thanks, Jeff. Yeah, that is inherent, and I did not specifically call that out. So thanks for pointing that out. Completely agree, 100%. So yeah, and there is an increasing focus, actually, I think, in kind of like a bell curve, really, at the, or where that prioritization is, not even a bell curve, where that prioritization is happening at the junior levels. It's really at the feature, a very discrete level, and then the more senior you go, the larger the scope of the prioritization. And I do touch on that a little bit at the VP level, especially. I kind of did bring that in a way that I hadn't talked about it before. So at that VP level, I think one of the things that I thought was really cool at one of the prior companies that I worked with, Jeff and I worked together in specifically, was there was this notion that at the vice president level, someone is creating a strategic advantage for the company just by the things that they're doing in their department and their organization. A vice president is a leader of a strategic advantage for the company. So our product organization was a strategic advantage for our marketing technology company, and the vice president was responsible for leading that practice that helped us be superior in the market. They own the product strategy for a major product group and all the programs. They manage very senior contributors. They help develop the organization, and they definitely interact with the C-suite and the board to define and execute and convey the strategy. And they approve business cases. When we're looking at the prioritization level, the vice president is looking at what's the business value of an opportunity and how do I apply my limited resources to achieve maximum value across a bunch of competing efforts. Anything else that you'd add on that, Jeff?
Nope, I think that makes sense.
Okay, so as I think about how to traverse between these levels, it's looking up to the next level and saying, how can I be operating and delivering that kind of value? For example, if I'm functioning at the director level, how can I take a more active approach to interacting with the C-suite and the board to help us define and execute and convey the strategy? That sometimes means reaching out to the CEO or the chief product officer and say, let's have lunch. I've been observing some things and I've got some ideas that I'd like to pitch to you. And I'd like to get some mentoring from you before I do so in a formal way. And looking for ways to add value and create those interaction points so that you get the invitation for the formal meetings to be included in the working group. And that's a way to elevate yourself in that career path to deliver more value for your company and have a greater impact on the product portfolio in a way that when the time comes, you're a clear candidate for a more senior level role. And that's as an example. And I can look back there at the entry-level product management role and apply the same thing. The more I'm in a position where I can demonstrate that I have domain expertise, and the more that I can do to help define what success looks like in the product and really support that, the easier it is for me to step up to my senior manager, to my director, and say, hey, I think I'm ready to move forward and take on a product of my own. Here's the evidence of the things that I've done as an entry-level product manager and why I think I can apply that and have demonstrated the skills that it takes to be a product manager. That helps you facilitate that conversation. And the last level, that chief product officer level, is, once again, you're defining market priorities. When you're in that VP level, usually to move into a chief product officer type of a role. Yeah, Paul, I want to go back to you real quick. Paul McMillan, you had a comment.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I was just going to add that, a lot of just like what you noted on in terms of if you are and somebody asked at the beginning in terms of how to level up as you're going through this, but a lot of that's going to be on you to, depending on who your leader is and how they interact with you as a product manager or senior product manager, if you're looking to get into a director, VP role, CPO role, whatever that might be. A lot of that's going to be you facilitating that conversation with that leader, making sure that you're involved. If you're getting bored with your stagnant in terms of the current portfolio, maybe you need more responsibility. So a lot of times these leaders get caught up in the bigger picture, and as much as they might have a lot of people underneath them. So a lot of times it's the people that are getting promoted that are going to their leaders asking for that responsibility, or, hey, I'm looking for this, or I'd like to get educated and, increase that. So if your leader's not doing that, that's where you as a product manager, it's going to be critical, and to bring that up during your one-on-ones or whatever your schedule routine is, or even asking if they're not getting you in front of that C-suite, but you feel your communication's ready, your presentation skills are good. Ask them for hey, next presentation I'd like to present, or if whoever the CEO is comes to you about a question of the product, can you please ping me and allow me to have that conversation, start getting some face time with the leadership team.
That's a really great point, Paul. I want to, one of the things that I heard you, the key that you said there is the people that tend to move forward are the ones that specifically work with their leaders and say, hey, I'm managing my career. I think I'm ready to take this step. Can you give me, can you help me find an opportunity to gain this education or to gain this experience and work with the people that I would be responsible for working with at that next step and up and let me prove myself. Is that what I heard you say?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really great call out. Thank you very much. And at that chief product officer, chances are pretty good to take on that chief product officer role. That's where you're going to likely move to a different company. It's going to, those roles don't often open up. Sometimes you can grow within a company if you're a company career person and get there, but very often you're gonna be looking around for an opportunity that really fits with the things that you're passionate about and know about and are ready to take on that strategic level. But you need to have demonstrated the ability to direct budgets, to own a portfolio strategy, and to work seamlessly and effectively with the C-suite and communicate on behalf of the company in really effective, powerful ways. You need to demonstrate growth results that you've delivered in your work at that vice president or senior director level, really not only guiding the product, but guiding the product to help the business grow in a really meaningful, powerful way. Anything else that anybody wants to add before I switch over to the beyond and wrap us up with an exercise? Steve, go for it.
Yeah, I was just saying one of the ways to move up is to make sure you get on the hottest product around in your company. Whenever something new's coming up, get on that. Because nothing moves you up quicker than getting on something new, exciting, that's going to move the needle for the company, and then making something out of it. Even though that doesn't show managerial experience, it does show drive, innovation, desire to move the company's finances forward. And that's what's always helped me, is getting on the hottest thing around.
Yeah, I want to pile on that. That's a really good point. Sometimes there's not an opportunity to jump on the hottest product, but there's an opportunity to create, to make a product hot. And that helps with that as well. I got a really good opportunity that really helped with my career growth in the time that IBM was acquiring Silverpop. I had an opportunity to, we had a problem that we wanted to solve, and I was able to work with some of my technical colleagues to pitch an approach to solving that problem, and was given the right to go try to create a product, a personalization product. And that propelled me from individual contributor very quickly to a product that had a huge amount of focus across the IBM organization, and propelled me very quickly over the course of a couple of years to a director level role from an individual contributor role, and then ultimately to a vice president role as we spun out of IBM. And it was really, to Steve's point, it was grabbing on to that big opportunity, that hot opportunity, working really hard to earn the right to own that. All right. So we're running out of time, but that's okay, because what we're going to do with our breakout groups today is going to be a little bit different. We're going to, I did want to touch on the beyond product management, and maybe we'll just save that for another session. Kind of talk about career paths that have moved, what people have done after product management, just at a touch. I see them move on to other leadership roles, chief marketing officer, or into the marketing organization, into sales, into mergers and acquisition, business development. There are a lot of different directions they can go. I think what we'll do is we'll probably do another session in the future about career paths, where senior leaders in organizations who aren't in product management now, but how product management has affected their career path in the future. But I do want to take a moment, and I'm going to break you up into breakout rooms on your way out the door. We got about 28 people left. We got a few minutes. I want you to go off into a breakout room with a few people, and I want you to talk with each other as long as you can stick around. I'll keep the WebEx, the Zoom open until about 9:15 for anybody who can stick around. But introduce yourself to the folks that you're with. Talk about how long have I been in product management, what your next career step is, why that's important to you. Having a reason, having the why that Jeff talked about at the company level is important, at the product level is important, but in your career, it's also important. Why do I want to take on this next step? And then what are two of the skills, and talk about this as a team. What are a couple of skills that I need to work on for the next 3 months? And I'm going to make a commitment to work on those skills for the next 3 months to aid in my career progression. And we're going to keep in touch with our small teams and hold each other accountable and help each other be successful in that. When you fill out your survey at the end of the session today, let me know what you're going to work on as well in your additional comments, and I'll follow up with you as well and see how you're doing. All right. So I'm going to break everybody who's left out into a few breakout rooms, and we'll just end with that today. I want to thank you for coming. I hope this has been valuable. Make sure and hit the survey before you leave the session today. And thanks everybody who did come. Thanks everybody, and have a great week. Bye-bye.